Guys, Prairie here. Welcome to the channel. On this channel, we make videos around technology tips, career advice, and inspiration, helping you elevate your career, earn more money, so you can live a better life. If you're new to the channel, consider taking the like button, running the like button through an ETL pipeline. Do not do deduplication along the pipeline for your ETL job, and then watch exactly what comes up at the end when you run reports. Now, that said, today we're going to be talking about GPT-3. As a matter of fact, what we're going to do is look at some of the favorite questions that we've gotten from GPT-3 in general. A lot of people have questions around this. Now, instead of me going through the questions that we have, what I did was to say, how can we put this to the community? So we're going to dive right in today into Quora to look at some of the questions that people in the community are asking. I'm going to give some of my opinions around it, but I think some of the questions you see and the answers you'll get will be extremely fascinating. Now, if you are new to GPT-3, you should understand GPT-3 stands for the Generalized Pre-trained Model, which is the really amazing model from OpenAI. It's a very popular topic. I've made a lot of videos about it. The very first question that we have on the list here is, will GPT-3 replace software developers? Will GPT-3 replace software developers? The answer is no, to my humble opinion. You can see that GPT-3 can write code, or you can make it look like it's writing code, but I don't think it's gonna replace software developers anytime soon, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. Now, will GPT-3 kill us programmers? If yes, when? You can see the theme I was talking about. A lot of people, and I'm guessing these are all programmers, asking this question, are worried about GPT-3 taking the jobs from coders, from software developers, from engineers, and all of that. Again, my opinion to this is GPT-3 will not kill programmers. It wouldn't take your job away. And you can read some of the comments here. I'm guessing people are extremely worried by that. It says, how will OpenAI GPT-3 change everything? Now, this is one of those questions that, what do you mean by everything? I don't think that OpenAI GPT-3 is going to change the way I eat my breakfast. That's part of everything. So I think this is a little bit of a misguided question, in my humble opinion. Now, GPT-3 might have, if everything means the way programmers do their job, if everything means the way journalists do their writing, if everything means the way lawyers do their work, then that's a whole different question. But I think this is such a vague question that it's kind of hard to give a really good answer on that. Now, let's go back to the next question on the list here, which says, what is GPT-3, the language model recently released by OpenAI? A very good question. GPT-3, the language model, came from OpenAI. It's a generalized pre-trained model. And you might say, what exactly is a generalized pre-trained model? So let's talk about what a model is in AI. If you think about a model, a lot of models are usually specialized model. You train a model for a specific data set or a specific use case. A good example that many people would think about is email classification. Gmail has been doing this for the longest time. You have a set of emails, and then based on some NLP, natural language processing, or some other signals, you want to say this email is spam or not. It's a classic classification problem. And that problem has been solved. Specific for emails, you get a text, you can look at that text to say spam or not. Very specialized, very narrow. But what GPT-3 is doing, generalized, is to say, instead of us training models for specific data sets or specific use cases, say email classification, text writing, or writing of code, or just understanding literature, and all of those use cases, let's train a generalized model that can do it all. And it's a very ambitious goal, but that's exactly why GPT-3 is causing a lot of people to pay attention, because of its ambition. It's a generalized pre-trained model. You're not training it to any specific data set. You're not training it to any use case, but it seems to do it all. You gotta play with it to really see what it does. Now, the next thing here, it says, how powerful is OpenAI new GPT-3 learning model? It's that powerful, I can tell you that. It means that it can really do some good stuff. Now, powerful can be very subjective, right? What are we comparing it to? There are other models that have been out there, like BART, and a lot of different companies have versions of their own generalized models. But compared to GPT-2, GPT-3 is pretty powerful. Compared to GPT-1, GPT-3 is pretty powerful. So how powerful is it? I would say very powerful. Now the next one here is, let's look at this. Can we achieve AGI by improving GPT-3 algorithm? And AGI just simply stands for artificial general intelligence. And I think the whole idea is, can we achieve that? The whole idea of being able to do it all. Think about mimicking a human that has all this intelligence. Can we achieve that with GPT-3 or improving GPT-3? Now, I don't know what iteration we're gonna achieve AGI, but as an optimist in technology and a believer in the power of technology, I think it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. So it might be the GPT version of this, it might be some other iteration of it, but at some point in the future, I believe, it doesn't matter, in the next 10 years, 20 or 100 years or 1,000 years, some folks somewhere would achieve AGI based on any definition that is acceptable. So at some point it should be there. How revolutionary is GPT-3? Very revolutionary to the point where people are literally scared of their jobs. If that doesn't tell you that's very revolutionary, I don't know what will. You can see GPT-3 literally writing books, entire books, without the aid of a human, with a simple prompt. You say, hey, I want a book about so and so topic, and GPT-3 can write that for you. That should give you an idea that this is a very, very powerful and revolutionary model. Powerful. Will OpenAI GPT-3 kill coding? You see a lot of the theme here. People are worried. I don't know why all the programmers are worried about your jobs. Even if GPT-3 takes away the mundane part of coding, which is just, basically is writing. It's just basically putting in text, syntax, and semantic down to a piece of paper. Even if GPT-3 can do that, I believe you're gonna still need programmers to program the GPT-3. And so it might be a different level of programming, but it's still gonna be some programmers. All right, just because cars made it easy for transportation doesn't mean we don't have drivers, or just because planes have autopilot doesn't mean you don't have pilots sitting in the plane. So I feel that there's opportunity for programmers. It might just be a little bit different than what we think about today. Now the next one is, why is GPT-3 so controversial? Well, I can tell you, it's controversial means different things to different people, but a majority of the people who see GPT-3 as being controversial are people who are literally worried about their jobs. You've seen in the previous conversations, people are talking about, would GPT-3 take away programming? Is it gonna replace lawyers? Is it gonna get rid of writers? What does this all mean from a professional perspective? That's why it's very controversial, right? There might be other aspects to it being controversial I'm not very sure about, but for the most part, people are scared of their jobs. There are also aspects of it that might apply to the legal side and responsibility. So if GPT-3 can just write all these things from thin air or give advice or from thin air, who is held accountable? So if I go into GPT-3 and I ask for, say, hey, I have so and so symptoms of this medical condition, and GPT-3 does a diagnosis for me based on that, well, who is held responsible if there is a malpractice or something goes wrong? Is it the people who develop the model and put it out there? Are they the ones to be held responsible, or do you get to hold the algorithm responsible in itself? And how would you even do that? So there might be some controversy there that we don't know about, but just something to think about. And that's not just from a medical side. You can think about it from the legal side. You can think about it from just who should be compensated. If I use GPT-3 and I write articles, which I've been doing on my blog, and I monetize that and make money, well, who should be paid? Should I pay GPT-3? Should there be a GPT-3 fund for that revenue generation? Is it unfair for me to have access to GPT-3 and someone else doesn't? Is that unfair competition? So a lot of nuances there that can lead to controversy. Just something to think about. In layman's term, how does OpenAI GPT-3 works? All right, one of the very smart person once said, it's always easier to make things more complicated than it is to make them more simple. Just kind of the law of entropy, right? So, but that said, I'm gonna try to say it in layman's term. all it means is that OpenAI has built this model. Think about it as a black box. You don't know what is in that black box, but they've just put a lot of things in that black box. And what you as a user can do is you can take any input that you want, give it to that black box, it does some magic and it gives you a result. So you can come to the black box and say, hey, black box, write an essay advising someone about travel in South America. That could be literally what you say. Write an essay about advising someone traveling in South America for the very first time. That black box would take that input and it's gonna spit out an essay for you by itself, because it's been trained on thousands and thousands and thousands of articles, and it can do that for you. All right, so that is it in layman's term. Whatever is in that black box, now that is a secret sauce. That's what those guys have built, right? That's the brain that they've built, and that's what GPT-3 is about. But for the layman, it's a box. You give it something and it's gonna give you out something. I hope I did a pretty good job at that one. I hope I didn't make it more complicated than it should, because the whole goal was to make it simple, and it's not always easy to make something simple. All right, let's keep going down here. Which language is used to write GPT-3? I have no idea, absolutely no idea. Now, if the question is which language can you use to interact with GPT-3, you can use Python. I've done that. You can use the Python library. I believe there is a Java library, I'm sure, and that API to talk to GPT-3. But what language was used to implement GPT-3? Maybe I should do research on that, and let's actually check this to see which language used to write GPT-3. What do folks say? Answered, it's not open source. Well, Python and TensorFlow, and I believe it says GPT-3 was written in Python and TensorFlow, and there is a source code. That doesn't look right. It can't just be, yeah, that doesn't look right. Well, the simple answer is I don't know. I really do not know. It might be Python, it might be Go, it might be C, it might be C++, something I really do not know. But very good question. That one stumped me. What is next after GPT-3? Well, I guess GPT-4, maybe an iteration of GPT-4, which will build on GPT-3 and have even way more parameters built into it and even be way more precise. So very powerful with GPT-3 kill coding. Again, I don't think so. How can GPT-3 be used for images? It currently cannot be used for images. As far as I know, you cannot use GPT-3 to work with images. Now, there is another version of a project. I just cannot get what the name is. Let's see if there's an answer from OpenAI geared towards images, because images is a little bit of a different domain than just working with text. So there is a version of OpenAI is releasing this text to image generator, which is not GPT-3. I have to say that it's not GPT-3, but it's coming from OpenAI, and that would be the answer to this question, right? So again, GPT-3 is on text. There's some other project from OpenAI that is on let's actually browse to OpenAI, that is for images, and that is what you would use from an image perspective. I believe this is it. It's called DAL. That's the name I was looking for. So DAL is for creating images from text. So this is exactly what you need if you're going to work with text. It's not GPT-3, I have to emphasize. All right. Next one, does GPT-3 script quora? Nope. There are better ways to scrape if you want to do scraping. GPT-3 would be, it's like using a Ferrari to compete against a bicycle. GPT-3 wasn't meant for that. Those are in two different leagues. If you want to scrape, there are many libraries in Python you can use for scraping. Beautiful soup, many things that you can use to scrape your data, do your parsing, and then you can run that through GPT-3. But I wouldn't say I'm gonna go into GPT-3 to use that for scraping. That would be just not the right use case for it. Why is GPT-3 considered important cornerstone in AI studies? Well, it's because this is the first and the most effective, as of this video, a generalized model out there that beats almost every other model we know of. That's why it's huge. It's huge. It's just as apparent as saying why is the Bugatti Veyron or something like that the fastest car on the road? Was because it's just the fastest car. If you put it that car and any other car for them to run toe to toe, it beats them. So that's just what GPT-3 is. It's just the best at language processing from a generalized perspective. Throw at it any question, it can give you really good answers compared to anything else in the field. That's why. Is GPT-3 the big leap forward for AI? Of course it is. Of course it is. I mean, you can't even, that's not even a question at this point. How big of a deal would GPT-3 be? It's a big deal. We've talked about that. How do I get GPT-3 access? Well, if you want to get GPT-3 access, really good question. What you want to do is go to OpenAI. I don't know as of this point. Explore the API. It was request only. Just click on this button, join the waitlist, and you should be able to join the waitlist. Is that simple. When I did it, it took me not even up to a day. I was able to join in and make videos about it. But I don't know how long it's gonna take you. But what you want to do is join this waitlist, and they're gonna give you access, and you can go in and play with the sandbox or play with the APIs. So just go to the beta.openai.com and join the waitlist. Let's keep going down. Is consciousness found inside GPT-3? What is consciousness? I don't know what consciousness is, what you mean by consciousness. Depending on what you mean by consciousness, it might or it might not be inside GPT-3. So let's first of all define what we mean by consciousness, and then I can tell you the answer if you find that in GPT-3 or not, right? So this is one of those questions that gets to the philosophical side of what consciousness is, or what does it mean to be a being, what does it mean to be alive. No one really knows, right? I mean, I really cannot speak on that topic very intelligently. But if you can define what consciousness is, then you can, at that point, you would know if GPT-3 is conscious or not. So very difficult question for me to answer. What is OpenAI GPT-3 algorithm? It's a generalized pre-trained model. We've talked about that. How does it work? I have no idea how it works. No idea. I just know these guys have done something really amazing. Millions of parameters, and you can throw at it any generalized question. It's gonna give you an answer. All right, can GPT-3 write a novel? Oh yeah, you betcha. It can write a novel. GPT-3 OpenAI can write a novel. Let me even give you an idea of FruLouis.com. That blog, this blog, a lot of the content, and by the way, check out the blog if you haven't, is by GPT-3, and I didn't do a lot of work for me to get the content there. So just imagine if you wanted to write a book, you might need to do a little bit of a guidance in terms of the prompts that you use. But if you use the DaVinci engine, you can get some really good content for a novel, fiction or non-fiction. You can get it. How would GPT-3 affect our world? In many ways. What implications does GPT-3 have to the Turing test? It does have a lot of implications. Now, I really do not know this from the academic perspective. It might very well be that it's an important step, like this says, it's an important step towards the AGI, artificial general intelligence. But a lot of people believe the Turing test is even irrelevant at this point. So I've heard many different opinions on this. I really don't have a clear, you can see me kind of stumbling here because I really don't have a clear point of view one way or another, because you know what the Turing test basically says is you can interact with the machine and feel that you and confuse a machine for a human. If that can happen, then you feel like you've passed the Turing test. And in my experience working with GPT-3, I was baffled. I mean, some of the responses I get from GPT-3 are way more on point than what you get even talking to the average human in certain areas. Now, if you start talking about consciousness and other dimensions and being self-aware, I don't think GPT-3 is gonna do that. So this philosophical dimension, I really just cannot speak too much to it. I will stay on the technology side and be impressed by that. I will let smarter people speak to that. Where can I download GPT-3? You cannot download GPT-3. All you can is go to the website beta.openai.com and join the waitlist, and off you go. Does GPT-3 understand concepts of lying? I have no idea. What is lying even? Like, I mean, these are some of those questions that you gotta understand what it is you're talking about, and then you can then answer the question. What does lying mean, right? So lying could be you're lying to somebody could be the truth to someone, to some other person. So once you put context and nuance around a lot of things, it's really hard to say one way or another, right? So what exactly is lying? It seems like that's a trivial question. It's not. What do you mean by lying? What is it you're lying? Is it communicating a fact in a communication that is different from what it is in the real world? Is it, what is it? I just don't know what lying is. Maybe we should start from there, what lying exactly is. But let's see what people say here. There's an example of potential acting stupider than it really is. Yeah, so GPT-3 can act stupider than it really is. You can say that's lying, but again, I don't know how this will be very relevant for a geek like myself. Let's do 3 more and then we're done for today. Will OpenAI release its latest language model, GPT-3? Yeah, it did. So that's a no-brainer question. GPT-3 was released in 2020, so that's out. What benefits does GPT-3 bring to society? Lots of benefits, lots of applications, from legal to law to writing to education to fighting crime, to just a lot of things. You can I believe the applications of GPT-3 haven't even been understood. A lot of people haven't even understood how to start taking advantage of this, powering applications and using it in very novel ways. We don't even know how we're going to be using this thing, right? I look at it as the electricity, and we're just still getting the sparks going on. At some point we start building cities that are all powered by electricity. That's where we're going with this whole power of GPT-3 and AI. So for me, how is it going to benefit society? We don't even know yet, right? I think the people who are going to take advantage of GPT-3 might not even have been born just yet, right? So that's just to give you an idea of the fact that we're still at the infancy. This is baby steps we are at. How can I have a career on developing AI such as GPT-3? Well, just go to school, maybe get a degree, take a course, a lot of courses on Coursera, take MOOC classes, educate yourself about, machine learning, AI, Python, data science. That is it, right? Know a little bit of Python programming, know a little bit of working with data, understand some mathematical concepts, statistics, linear algebra. You need those foundations and you can always get the job. It's not easy, but just get at it and you can. All right, let's see here. Tell us who or what prevents you from doing so as you desire. Yep, I think this is a question this person is asking. If that's your goal, just dive in and you can get it. So nothing stops anyone from getting there. So again, I think the questions are beginning to repeat themselves here. Is it worth learning React now after GPT-3? It's how will GPT-3 affect spread of misinformation? I don't know. What I think is it's gonna fuel the misinformation if you don't have controls around it. I think the team is doing a pretty good job of limiting the access. That's why there's the join the wait list, and they're trying to limit the access, kind of do a slow release to kind of monitor how people are using it. Because you can literally just go to GPT-3, ask it to write anything, and you copy that information and share it. People who could not even write now can start writing things that seem real and just pushing that in Twitter or Facebook, and just go into the misinformation ecosystem, echo chamber, and it could be very problematic. So a lot of thought is going to go into this. But I can tell you for sure that if it's not controlled or governed well, this has really good promise for being a good vector for misinformation. So that would be something that people should really care about that much. All right, guys, so there you have it. I think we've gone through some really good reviews of GPT-3 questions. Hopefully this was helpful. I started with a list here, but I think my list will not do it justice. Hopefully the list we've seen here has given you some ideas, some pointers, things to think about. GPT-3 is the future. AI is the future. And if you're not getting on that bandwagon, the question is, what are you waiting for? Hopefully these questions have given you some pointers, and you can get in, you can jump in and be a part of this revolution, be a part of the future, be a part of this wave. Now, like we said before leaving you guys, if you haven't subscribed or if you haven't liked this video, what I want you to do is to do us a favor, take the like button just copy the like button, run it through an ETL pipeline, and forget to do deduplication. Don't do deduplication in your ETL pipeline, and then watch what happens at the end of your ETL pipeline, and then put some reports, Power BI, Tableau reports on top of that, and then see what your users tell you about your ETL pipeline. Now, hopefully this was helpful. Again, thanks for watching. This has been Phil. I'll see you in the next video.